hidden somewhere under here is a Triumph Spitfire. And here we have an engine. So maybe it's time they were joined back together again. So the Spitfire's out from hiding, and I'm just waiting for a hand with getting the bonnet off. While I'm doing that, I've got to deal with the exhaust manifold, because when I fitted this, none of the studs really seated very well. So I'm going to pull them all out, put some helicoils in, and then we should be good. Fortunately, they've only been in a year, maybe? Less than that, so they're not completely fused to the exhaust. Well, I already had a helicoil in. Clearly that wasn't all that successful. I'll just try sticking another one in and see how that goes. Well, that feels alright. I'll get the others done. Cross my fingers. So I did manage to get that sorted. They seem firm. I actually put a bit of thread lock on the helicoil inserts before putting them in. So maybe that helped. It was just doing them in the first place. Whatever. That should be ready to go. Bonnet is off the car. Engine's over there. Crane's over here. So let's put it all together. Okay, we're on the floor, on a bit card. The crane still has most of the weight. First important thing to go in is the spigot bushing for the gearbox input shaft. And it does actually, I did read the manual, it does actually say put a tiny bit of grease on it, so I will put the most minimal amount on. I don't want it spraying off on the into the clutch basically. I also got to tighten up these, don't forget that. So the torque spec for these is just going to be the standard for these size bolts. So I'm happy to do it with a spanner, because your spanners are designed so that it's difficult to get it any tighter than the natural torque for these size fastings. Most important here though is doing it up evenly, because you know, if you crank down on one of these, we're going to bend the aluminium, which is what happens with these quite frequently. Okay, pop the back plate on. And luckily here everything is in pretty much decent nick, because I've been here recently. And these I do care a bit more about torquing, because they are actually holding the engine and the gearbox together. Well, that's 20 foot-pounds, or 240 inch-pounds on this wrench. I put the studs in at the top here as well. That's actually the original length, but longer ones do help getting the gearbox attached. That's what we're doing shortly. If I don't break my torque wrench. Flywheel a bit of a blast down. Question is only, can I be lazy and get it in place without removing the lock plate? Yes. And these are another thing that's a special bolt. They're like 1.033 inches or something, but they are particular for the flywheel. And these do require torquing. That's 42 to 46. And this is somewhere you see people struggling. I just, you know, you can make one of those with 2 bits of metal and a welder, much easier. Clutch. Give that a spray down as well. And this one, particular one, very handily marked, clearly flywheel side. I encourage it to go straight on. Not interested in going on. You've seen I have my handy clutch alignment tool in place. I mean, this is the one benefit of having billions of gearboxes and pieces. Don't have to buy a small piece of plastic. And these are also 18 to 20 foot-pounds because of the size of bolt they are. Okay. Okay, aside from the fact my engine crane has decided to start leaking, which is useful, there's nothing stopping us getting this in the car. So let's get on with it and hope this stays working long enough. Well, there we go. Oops, fall over a tripod. Engine is back in. Now it's just sitting on the front mount, and I've only got a couple of bolts between the bell housing and the engine, but it's sat there. So there's a whole lot more stuff to put on, but I'm just going to get on with that by myself because it's just a case of replacing things, turning spanners and that, and then we'll have a look at this again when we're ready to start getting everything ready to start. Right, so we're getting somewhere. Engine's all attached to the car and to the gearbox. Got the starter motor on. I know some people find this difficult. I actually did this one from underneath to make things awkward for myself for some reason. But you can actually get, if you've got an extension and an electric ratchet, you can get to those bolts top and bottom quite easily and stick a spanner around the back from this side. Just starting to put, I've got the exhaust done, I'm just starting to put the inlet manifold on, and I thought since we've got a good view this might be useful for people. If you put one of these on, you have to have it slightly off as it is now, get the bogey balls on and the nuts and washers, and then push it on, because you see there, otherwise you're not going to be able to get those nuts in this space. That's got the water pipe on. I'd forgotten it bolted to the head. I thought it bolted to there, as perhaps the Herald's does. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, progress. So just before I get this end of the car closed up and it becomes more difficult to access, I'm going to put a little blob of white on the timing mark. I've managed to find some paint that's probably about the same age as the car, and some blue at about 8 or 10 degrees before top dead centre, because I'm going to need, I have electronic ignition on this car, so I'm going to need to have a starting time, have a starting timing. These cars never came with any timing marks beyond top dead centre, so it wasn't very neat. This doesn't need to be very exact, just to give us some idea of where we put the starting point for the distributor. If any of you are also railway nerds, you might not recognise that colour. So I've kind of just been pottering around really, getting the last bits on. So start motor's connected, got the an alternator and temperature sender connected, got the radiator in, horns wired, need to put the lighting back in the front, got the PCV on. Now it's supposed to be push fit in the manifold and it wasn't, so I put a little tiny bit of tiger seal around there to hopefully glue it in, so we'll see how that goes. And the only thing left I think is the carbs. Fuel's not hooked up, but I'm going to start it if I can, just because then the fuel is easier to get out of the way in case of an emergency, like something setting on fire. Carbs are still attached to the old manifold, so I've got to pull them off. I'm going to give them a bit of a clean, but I'm not rebuilding them fully, for the simple reason that they are working, and I want to put them on the car and start the car before I start thinking about fully cleaning them down. I'm feeling like I'm going to, because the engine bay is quite smart now and they will not be. But for the moment, let's get it running. Anyway, I'll get that done and then it's going to be time to start. Well, I've finally hit a roadblock. I've been doing really quite well on this car. This engine build up to this point, I've had everything, or at least I've been able to find something to scavenge for what I've got in. But I'm stuck now. The carb spacers, which are asbestos, are firmly stuck to this manifold. Now, if they'd have popped off, I'd have taken them off, put them back on again, and just used them. But I am not attempting to use any sort of. I've tried a plastic scraper and tried to get them off, and they're not moving. So this whole manifold is scrap anyway. So it's just going in the bin as is. Yeah, that corner's off. This is cracked. The pipe's rusted out. It's just going in the bin. So they're not advertised for Spitfires or Triumphs, but Minis had SU HS2 carbs, so I've ordered some mini ones. So I'm going to have to wait till I start this engine, but you're not, because it's going to happen very shortly. Okay, so I'm just going to do a last couple of things before I pack away and leave this to wait till I can put the carbs on. Just going to get some oil in. I guess there's an argument that putting the oil in could wash away the assembly lubricant. But for me, this is kind of a case of practicality, because I want to put the running in oil in and then stick it away somewhere and not have to think about it till it's time to do GT6. This doesn't constitute a recommendation. I know a lot of people get quite passionate about oils. I would be inclined to say trust the oil manufacturers. Having been a research chemist in the past, I know how much effort goes into developing these sort of things. So, spilled oil. I'll have my nice shiny, freshly painted rocker cover. Anyway, this one comes with a picture of an Aston Martin on, which is as good a reason to buy it, isn't it? Also chuck the plugs in, so the engine's at least closed there. And I got these. These are apparently the ones that everybody wanted 10, 20 years ago for heralds and the like. And I happened to get back at an auto jumble, so some Bosch plugs for it. Fancy multi-electrodes. That one didn't have the top on, it's just falling on the floor. Oh, it's quite nice being able to go underneath this car, because it's had an oil slick under it for the past several years, just because the engine was really, really leaky. As we saw earlier on with the state of the front ceiling block. Which reminds me, I've got to complain about that one that didn't fit. I also actually should try and find, I want another drive belt, because I just want one slightly longer, so that it's not such a struggle to get to number 1 plug. Right now, can't get that in at all. Yeah, the second place I'll do. It's just touched the bottom of the dipstick, need a bit more than that. And I might even, I think I'll fill it up with water as well, because then we'll at least be able to see if it is watertight, static. And it may be something goes under pressure. But if it leaks when it's not running, it's definitely going to leak when it's running. There we go, plenty of oil. That'll do us. Alright, so I'm going to chuck some water in and I will see you shortly. Well, I'm quite lucky that I wasn't able to try starting the engine immediately, because I realised I've been an idiot and I didn't torque the crankshaft pulley bolt, nut rather, which is kind of important for the the whole of the front, the engine staying together. However, I have managed to get my ring gear lock on and to wedge up the radiator enough to get an extension in and onto the front pulley, so I'll get that torqued, and then yeah, better than the nut flying off somewhere down the road. Well, that worked fortunately, and everything's back together. Now, in all of my many manuals, or the internet, I couldn't find an actual torque spec for the small crank engine front pulley nut. So I've gone to about 90-ish, 92. The bigger engines, the late 1300s and the 1500s, 150 foot-pounds. But this is a much smaller nut. Anyway, I should probably look back and see what I did for the Herald. The water seems to have stayed inside. There's no leaks static, which is nice. Not so much for the oil, it's coming out the drain plug. It's one of them aftermarket magnetic drain plugs that doesn't actually seal under threads as the originals do. So it's perhaps not a surprise. Anyway, it's going to stay there. I've got 500 miles worth of running in oil in here, and then I'll find something else. Anyway, see you in a bit. Okay, so I got some stuff. Should let me start the car. That was a pointless now. Those are my non-asbestos-y carb spacers. They look like they're wood, don't they? I bought some just-in-case throttle spindles, because I noticed there's some silicone sealant on my throttle spindle. Probably it's necessary. That's for the GT6. There's some paranoid spare core plugs, and that'll let me redo my fuel line connection, which has a bit of a mangled nut. Could have coped without it, but as I was ordering stuff, I think the seal was on back order. And I got something shiny for the engine bay, possibly useful. I'm not sure how much I need it, but yeah, that looks like gasket material as well. I wonder if I need a gasket either side of it. Anyway, let's get some carbs on the car and then see what happens. Now, I had a bit of a worry there. Tried to fit the carbs and they wouldn't go on. Or they would go on, but I couldn't get the bolts on, or the nuts on. Turns out the replacement manifold had been fitted with shorter studs. Now this is probably because it's a Mark IV manifold, and I guess they didn't have spacers. I'll have to look that up. This heat shield doesn't have the right spacing for the holes, so it might have been a waste of a tenner. Anyway, I'm not bothering with that now. Just get the carbs on. Carbs are on. Got a new fitting on the fuel pipe. Did just manage to get the olive off the old one. Now, I need some fuel, so I've got to go and buy that. And then prime the oil system, set the dizzy drive gear in the right position, time the engine, turn the key. Right, so today should be startup day. Now I just got a new fan belt in the post. This is a 1050 one. It's just the right, it's halfway between the two. I had the long one and a short one in effect, and it does let me get to plug number one without taking the alternator off, which is what I wanted. Just giving the rocker cover a tighten down, and I'm going to prime the oil system. This is an old push rod from the Herald. I welded the cup end up and then ground it down, so I've got a thing that will fit in the oil pump drive, similar to the way the dizzy drive gear would. So, going to run that up with the drill so we get some oil circulating around. We'll time the engine, attach fuel can, then hopefully it's going to run. So this has to go and run backwards. Okay, so I have been able to run it up till the oil pressure light will go out. Yeah, the battery's dying on the light there. So, let's get the engine sorted, timing wise. Or, well, get the dizzy drive gear in first. So what we're trying to get here, we've got our rotor arm, which is pointing that way, and this offset drive dog. So that means that has to go on that way around, and we want to line this side up with, in this case, our number one plug hole. So I've just stuck a bit of pen on the drive dog pointing in the appropriate direction. So now I've stuck that in more or less the right place. I'm going to have to turn the engine. Till it drops down. So we're now at, I think must have been at number 4. So I can feel both number 4 rockers are moving, which means we're at top dead centre, firing stroke on the 4th cylinder. And we need to be at number 1. Right, let's swing all around again. Now, number 1 TDC. Right, so I'm now at top dead centre, according to my crank pulley, and my valves on number 4 are loose, so I must be on the firing stroke of number 4, because that's when, obviously, we need the valves closed. And I think we're now in the right position, because we're pointing away from number 1. when 4 is firing, it should be right. So I'm going to go another revolution. So we're now back to top dead centre. The valves on number 4 are open, so I can't feel any valve lash. And hopefully if I put this distributor into this dog, it's now going to, our rotor arm is going to point towards 1. It does. Okay, so that is the right position for the Spitfire. I'll just back the engine off a bit. Now, I'll get the pedestal in. Right, if the cap went on there, okay, right. Distributor's sat in. Let's get the clamp tightened on, which for 1 minute. Right, so let's get the coil on. Let's get the coil on the right way round. Help. So, if you remember, you probably do because it won't have been that long ago for you, I put an extra mark on the timing pulley because I need to know roughly where, I don't know, like 6 to 8 degrees before top dead centre is, because I need to set the static ignition timing so we can actually start the engine. Let's remove that spanner. So that's where it's sitting. It's probably sitting at, yeah, well, it's probably like 6 to 8-ish. You've got electronic ignition though. So now I should be able to put the cap on the distributor, and the rotor arm would normally rotate this way. So rather than rotating the rotor arm with the engine, we can rotate the distributor body till we get a spark on number 1. So if I put that on, turn the ignition on. Nothing. Well, I've forgotten. That'll help. The coil was actually connected to the distributor cap, so we might be able to get some sort of spark. Maybe. So our battery's definitely charged. With the ignition on, I'm getting 12 volts to the coil. Definitely earthed the engine. And I'll get an earth to the distributor body too. So these funky multi-electrode plugs. This plug lead just a bit. I'm not actually plugged it in. What is going on here? Everything's well earthed. Oh, there we go. So it's only sparking if I move the distributor fast, which obviously is not going to help me get it at the right position for when it's actually supposed to fire. The cap's just a bit old, the rotor arm's a bit mucky. Worst thing is, I don't think I've got a spare cap for this distributor.
Okay, so I think probably my type of distributor or electronic whatever is inside it just doesn't like that sort of timing method. So it's approximately right, and we were only guessing on the crank anyway. So let's fiddle with it and see if we can get it to start. I think it's going to be the next job. Now, the cam manufacturer say you don't need to do a break-in by immediately revving it to 2,000 revs and all that sort of thing. So I'm just going to try and start it. I am gonna run it up, you know, at not idle till it's warm. Make sure it's not throwing oil everywhere, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to stress about it immediately getting to a high RPM or mid RPM or whatever. Just going to see if we can get it to run, and not just crack it open and start the motor too much. So there's some fuel attached. Let's see what happens. I'm guessing my battery is not happy there. Can we get petrol through? Can not happen. So now we should have fuel. There we go. Come on. Still not pulling fuel. Okay, I'm not sure it's happy picking up fuel out this can, so as it will start, I'm going to put the fuel system back and put the petrol in the petrol tank. Then at least we've got the pressure of the feed from there, because it'll feed through via gravity. Help that fuel pump along if it needs it. Right, so we've got actual pipe fuel connected, and it's coming into the filter, so it is gravity feeding as I thought it would. So let's try again. Well, my starter motor is a bit hot, which is not good. So let's take that off over here, shall we? But this is loose, so that might be why. You know, I think I also missed the earth strap on the... Does it have an earth strap on the front of the engine? I was going to check for that as well, because that won't help either. No, I don't have an engine earth strap there, but I'm pretty sure that one not being very well tightened down was a problem. Let's just give it a try, and then might let the starter motor cool down for a little bit. It's not red hot, but, you know, warm. And that's why the starters wasn't performing up to scratch, but we're still not getting fuel. So that fuel pump was working, there's no reason why it shouldn't be working.
It's getting fuel in, just not getting quite enough out. Yeah, empty float bowls. They're like a dribble through over here. I would fill up the float bowls with more fuel, but I haven't got any. Let's put it all in the car. What about this time? Right, so I filled up the bowls again, started immediately, and it started pulling more fuel through, so I think the pump is okay, it just can't cope with priming. But I then turned it off immediately because it sounded like something was knocking. I'm betting we're hitting the rocker cover, just from it sounded like the frequency of a tap it, but yeah, something's. I'm gonna have that off and see what's going on under there. But it will run. It sort of started to get warm. Right, let's nip this rocker cover off and see if we can spot what's making tapping noises. There's nothing there that I would call a witness mark of any sort. Possibly right there. There. Came up. Not sure. I think I will check my valve clearances again. It could have, if I've got one wildly loose, that could also be making sounds. None of them are loose. I'll give the tappets a quick check over. So I'll give the tappets a quick check over and then we'll report back. Right, so number one was a little tight, otherwise fine. I had a bit of a play around, stuck my fingers in the filler neck, and they were very tight. The rocker, when the rocker was fully up, was very tight to the rocker cover. With the manual one, original one fitted, it feels there's like a lot more room. So I'm going to try again with this original cover, see if we hear the same noise. No worrying noises. Alright, so I think we've got a little bit of an exhaust leak. Timing wasn't actually bad from the guesstimate, but I just adjusted it so it's 6 degrees before top dead centre, which I think is the manual figure, but whatever, we'll play with that. Okay, so I tried to give the exhaust a bit of a tighten up. It's obviously quite hot, so stop that. Looks like there might be the drift of something from the front of the engine, but I can't tell what or where. And it's quite late, so I'm not running the engine up again because I'm quite isolated, but I do have some neighbours who probably don't want to listen to it. So, resume investigating tomorrow. Okay, so I just had lunchtime, run it up again, had it going for about 20 minutes at either at 2,500 and then 1,800 RPM. Everything seems fine. Tiny dribble from the telltale on the water pump, which is annoying as that water pump is like maybe 2 years old. But no exhaust leak. Nothing else seems to be leaking. Sounds fine. There's some watery noises happening. kind of rich. A bit of work to do there. But then we have just been running it at idle, so... well, a little bit. Now you're probably wondering, well, I am, definitely, what's it like to drive? So, let's have a quick trip out. Well, that went all right. Nothing's on fire. So we're done here, really. The engine is running fine. It's, yeah, nothing left to do. Well, not entirely. There's always something left to do. I've got to have a tune of carbs. I've just been having a play around in the engine bay and tidying up some less than pretty wiring. Oh, and installing some shiny new plug leads because everything's red. So I decided they should have a matching set. But nothing, you know, essential. Oh, and I've got the water pump to do. See, I said there's always something. And it was actually the first video I ever posted on this channel was changing the water pump on this car. And that was about 2 years ago. So it's not really lasted very well. I have dug up a 1970s one to fit, which is either going to last better or be completely knackered already. So I figure that's the one to have a go with because, as I said, it's either going to work for a while or, you know, the seal's going to be knackered already, and I'm going to have to take it straight off. So let's get it off the shelf at least. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you got this far into the video and you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so because it does help me out. Getting very close to the point where YouTube will let me have some money. So every subscriber is very much appreciated. Appreciated anyway, but very much at this point. Thanks to all the regular watchers and the new watchers. And I will see you next time.